Welcome back. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa says all spheres of government need to be strengthened in order to address the various challenges plaguing the Northern Cape. Ramaphosa says Cabinet is committed to working closely with provincial as well as local governments on service delivery issues. He's leading an oversight visit then to the province.
The first challenge is where we've continued to work in silos. This has been a particular problem when it comes to the interface between national, provincial, and local government spheres. The second is what I have always termed the parachuted development projects. And this refers to projects and programs that, having been initiated and scoped and budgeted for at national level, get done without much due consideration to the realities of implementation on the ground, or even whether that particular initiative in the end does meet the needs of our people. Now, these challenges have been time-consuming as well as costly. They have also contributed to a widening of trust.
Now, Cooperative Governance Minister Velinkosi Hlabisa says his department is committed to improving the lives of residents in the province.
The engagement, therefore, today in this province should be an honest reflection on the current state of the province and its 31 municipalities. The Northern Cape is known of its vastness in geography and rich in resources, and it holds both incredible potential and persistent challenges. The vastness itself poses logistical challenges to accessing services, maintaining infrastructure, and stimulating the economic activity. But it also offers opportunities, particularly in agriculture, renewable energy, tourism, and logistics.
All right, we get the chance now to speak to Ronald Februarie, who is the chairperson of the Northern Cape Communities Movement. Then, Mr. Februarie, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Then, let's just talk about this visit and your overall thoughts of it. I mean, I don't know how much you got to engage in this process and how much you got to perhaps even share with either the minister or the president as well. And just your thoughts on what has been set forward by both.
Thank you very much, and afternoon to your listeners also. I think from a general perspective, these talks, the president is right, is happening in complete silo. I think the people of the Northern Cape and their voice in terms of what is happening and where their problems are lying is completely ignored. I'm sitting as a councillor also in the Siatemba municipality where one of these catalyst projects, the Priska Power Reserve, is to be taking place. And over the last 2 years, that council didn't have any interaction or any feedback from any sphere of government or even the investors that is planning to build in these areas. I think the president, as well as the minister, in their attempts to bring a little bit more clarity or at least direction so that these projects can happen, is not even taking the time to interact with the local governments to understand, how these projects can, can change our lives. But I think that is the general perspective of how the Northern Cape is being treated by the governing party.
Yeah, and when one wonders then, the working in silos part, how do we fix that though? Because even the vastness of the province has also been called as something that could be hindering, but also provide some sense of opportunities. But how do you stop working in silos, do you think?
Look, from the Northern Cape's community movements, we've started this organization by saying that communities should be involved in all spheres of government. Our model in terms of designing was when we came up with a different structure of electing people into parliament, we said that We're looking at about 270 municipalities, and each one of them should be represented so that their voice is always within all spheres of government and they can be heard. I think the problem here specifically is the Northern Cape is one of those provinces where people has, taken the confidence of their communities and voted for them. In Namakwa, in Springbok, in the Namakwa municipality, it's a coalition government. In Siatemba, Priska, where the power reserve is a coalition government. And it's very difficult, I think, for the governing party still, even though they're in a GNU setup, to work with these different municipalities, because they don't want to hear the voice of those that is opposed to how they are doing things. However, we have engaged with the previous minister, Minister Delil, with regards to these projects, and we have appealed to her, to reach out to the government and to put forward what we propose in terms of, how we can work together. And the only way that can happen is when the municipality is considered in all of these engagements. You would know that there was in Cape Town a couple of months ago, there was a conference. None of the municipalities or the officials were invited. But this is something that has been coming for a long time in the renewable space. You would know that the Northern Cape, is front runner in terms of renewable projects. But all that we get is we get these agreements afterwards as to how the government has agreed on behalf of the people. And the people don't see any of this benefit unless there is a fight. We are proposing that the government, for these municipalities where these projects are earmarked for, that they bring in representatives of these municipalities directly in all of the platforms where these projects are being discussed.
Yeah, I mean, one wonders, though, some of the projects include things like chronic water shortages that we're seeing in areas like Warrington, Longlands, Gong as well. And that's happened for years. Why is that not being dealt with, especially when you see areas in northern Tshwane, for example, being helped and assisted?
With the Northern Cape, everything is about politics. Every project that comes into this province is being used as a political tool. And unless the government gets, or the ANC gets what they want out of it, this project is standing still. Then there's also, a massive corruption that is happening within these projects. You would know that, without water, everything else is affected. Your housing, your sanitation. And we are sitting in areas where Koksta, for instance, is saying now they can't build houses because there's no water availability. And from our municipalities, we are working with 6 municipalities in our organization currently across the different districts. We have been continuously saying to the government, that it's important that from a local government perspective, we start to plan for these things, and that money that is earmarked is being pushed through the local government, because it's us that has to answer to our people when it comes to this shortage of water, shortage of sanitation and housing. But as I've been saying, all of these things is currently being driven through provincial structures. This district model that they are pushing is just another level where they can just control these projects. And at the end of the day, us that is sitting on the local government sphere, we have no answers. We are nowhere involved, and we can't deliver these services to our people.
Yeah. So there's forming another, let's call it crack team, as the Human Rights Commission has put it, actually, then. They're saying that perhaps a formation of that would bring about meaningful change. Would you agree with something like that? Would that be helpful? Or is it just another tool to be added to this and another conversation with nothing really being done here?
I would completely agree that this is just a waste of time, it's a waste of money, and it's a waste of resources. Like I said specifically, we're looking at the president, through this district model, trying to push, another sway of government, which is actually not constitutional even, but because they want to make sure that, funds and responsibilities is even further divided up before they get to the people. They will continue to push this kind of solutions onto communities, and at the end of the day, communities get nothing out of it. It is it's 5 years since 2020 when the president started with this VC project. yet there is nothing to see about it. I've always been saying that, you know, the IDC money that is being used into these projects is just a means of channeling money into political parties. We are seeing that in our area. Millions of rands is coming in through the IDC into the mining projects, and yet we are not seeing anything.
Yeah, so true. Fully understood. And I suppose that's the point of this visit, to try and ascertain where exactly things will be fixed and what exactly those things will be. Hopefully this does not just span one visit and one conversation only. Ronald, Februarie, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciated. The chairperson of the Northern Cape's Communities Movement there, joining us to unpack that visit then that we're seeing from President Cyril Ramaphosa across the Northern Cape.